The sacred Master Sword, the blade of evil's bane, or the sword that seals the darkness, a promising weapon within the Zelda series, thought to be indestructible and untouched by magical power that possessed contorted purposes, immoral evil. Although many Zelda games heavily suggest the Master Sword to be the ultimate weapon in their storyline, and is normally required to defeat Ganon, it seems with each passing legend, there's bound to be a demise to the sword's waning power. Recently, Breath of the Wild showed that, and Tears of the Kingdom proved it. The Master Sword has been rocked from its previous majesty. I believe we can all agree that Tears of the Kingdom shared many convictions of past legends. Maybe Nintendo implied to rhyme each game from their genuine essence of what they made back in time to how they want it to be today. The reality is that this Master Sword does not have the finest history in the Zelda series, and we as fans might be very wrong about the Master Sword entirely. And here's why. The sword spirit Fi conveys the words of a goddess to the hero. She was created by the goddess Hylia to serve as a guide. Throughout the game of Skyward Sword, Fi is a creation for one purpose: to aid the chosen hero on his quest to cleanse the world of evil in its purest form, the Demon King demise. But according to Hyrule Historia and the game itself, Fi is the very spirit of the Master Sword. A continued consciousness of Fi was only directed from this game to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Why this is the case is still unknown, but let's back up to Hylia herself. Hylia, during her ancient battle with Demise, bestowed a goddess sword. Within it housed the very spirit of this primitive weapon. But there's just one problem. Skyward Sword might have explained Fi well, but it doesn't help portray the future iterations of Zelda. Why I say this mostly is because Skyward Sword is perhaps one of the most polarizing Zelda games ever released. It has this reputation for many reasons, but knowing that Skyward Sword makes a big leap into the mythology of the Master Sword's creation and its spirit housed within it, lore-wise, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild deem to portray a retrograde of past games and legends. And although Fi does not appear in person in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, she is referred to several times and speaks to Zelda on one occasion. After Link is nearly killed fighting off the Guardians controlled by Calamity Ganon, Fi first speaks from within the Master Sword. When we enter Tears of the Kingdom, Link discovers a peculiar light in the Temple of Time. The Master Sword illuminates and Fi's sound effect plays, instructing him to position it in the light. After Link does so, the sword travels thousands of years into the past to meet Princess Zelda. Fi informs Zelda that Link is safe, having escaped Ganondorf's assault, and that she has traveled back in time to find Zelda and restore the Master Sword's strength. And when you actually later retrieve the Master Sword from the Light Dragon, where it has been recovering its power for thousands of years, Zelda refers Fi by calling the sword she instead of it.
The Master Sword. Your sword. She is the key to destroying the Demon King.
Curiously though, Fi has the innate inability to comprehend human emotions despite being capable of detecting them, hence why we might see her react during dire times in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Why doesn't she show up in the humanoid form after the battle was completed? Why doesn't she show up physically in the Breath of the Wild? Again, this links back to Skyward Sword's polarity, but these are some of the questions left to answer when we see her and hear her throughout these recent Zelda games. We were perhaps wrong about the sword's spirit and the corruption. Gloom, a substance that drains the life of its victims. It was unleashed when Ganondorf was resurrected beneath Hyrule Castle, nearly killing Link and drastically reducing his life force. Gloom has a viscous ooze-like look similar to malice, except Gloom is red-black rather than purple-black. Gloom is also seen to be more potent and injurious than malice, as the damage it does is permanent. This element in question is responsible for the devastation of the Master Sword. When Zelda and Link first descend beneath Hyrule Castle to face Ganon, Ganon's surge of gloom sets out directly towards Zelda. This is when we get to see Link utilize the sword to shield himself from the corruption, but it fails to do so as the gloom begins to drain Link's life energy and tarnish the blade. As Ganon fires another stream of gloom, the infected Master Sword is flung at him, shattering the blade into pieces. The degradation of the sword has never been a full scenario in Zelda games. Certainly, the blade can be dulled or even upgraded to its previous glory, but Tears of the Kingdom demonstrates that this blade does not endure. Nonetheless, after the upheaval event, soldiers state that the gloom resulted in the dullness of their weapons. The iron and steel-like weapons have been dulled from the gloom's effect when Hyrule Castle is lifted from the ground. This corruption or mysterious gloom is replacing traditional malice, infecting the various regions in unique ways. This we pretty much already know. Why it dulls weapons is still a mystery though, but it goes to show how potent Ganon's evil power really is, and how the Master Sword could not withstand this particular substance. It's a mystery to say the least for the Master Sword's corruption, but it's kind of nice to see Nintendo break some of the rules in terms of this type of weapon. Ganon destroying and corrupting the sword ends up showing a larger threat than we realize. But one of the most crucial aspects we discover, and one that we may question that would happen with this weapon, is the restoration. The legendary Master Sword is passed down from generation to generation for each legendary hero who wields it. The traditional characteristic of the Master Sword is having the power to defeat evil. Infused with the sacred flames provided by the golden goddesses and blessed by Hylia's power, the sword is ultimately effective against evil ones who even possess the Triforce. The sacred blade may also dissolve curses involving powerful evil magic and shatter magical barriers. This enchantment, however, fails to endure in Tears of the Kingdom. A frequent motif for the Master Sword is a desperate need for restoration, which occurs in many Zelda games, and Wind Waker was an excellent parallel to Tears of the Kingdom. While the sword is indeed the blade of evil's bane, at the same time, it has long played another role, a most wretched little key that has kept the seal on Ganondorf and his magic intact. By withdrawing the blade, it broke the seal. Later, in Wind Waker, Link learns that Ganon murdered the original sages of Earth and Wind. Because of that, the Master Sword's edge was dulled and its power to repel evil was faded. As such, Link must awaken 2 new sages in order to regain that lost power, to restore its edge and to keep it glowing with the power to repel evil, allowing Link to demolish the magical barrier that blocks his route to Ganon's tower in Hyrule. Why I mention the Master Sword and Wind Waker's need for restoration, it is because it is akin to a sage restoring the power of the sword in Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda sacrificing herself to reclaim the sacred sword meant draconification. A legendary blade would cease to exist without her sacrifice, and Ganon's scheme could govern and eventually destroy Hyrule. It's most likely that this holy magic to restore the sword was to create its former glory. This makes the most sense primarily because it was the original blade wielded and created by Goddess Hylia. The need to restore the Master Sword to repel evil is the use of her power, or something near to it. I would like to suspect that the restoration for the Master Sword can be a multitude of reasons. While we know for sure that this sword can now be corrupted, we end up with a solution to now heal this weapon, although it comes with a sacrifice. Not the best turn of events in Tears of the Kingdom, but it did put such a high stake that this weapon could really only defeat Ganondorf. So with dire threats comes dire measures. The divine force was normally surging through the veins of a vessel from the royal line of ancient Hyrule, a holy strength that belongs not to just Hyrule, but to also the might of the gods, those who had the Triforce, as well as artifacts utilized at a given period. The sacred power is really just the use of force. Hyrule Historia even states that the sacred power of the gods gave to the world. It's the breath of life itself. Skyward Sword fashioned the Master Sword with the Golden Goddess's sacred flames. It is crafted and transformed to the Master Sword by employing Furore, Nayru's, and Din's flames, and especially the holy red flame of Din infused with the blade gave a divine power that repels evil. They are traces or manifestations of the Force. Purifying the weapon in sacred power led to its strength, and in Tears of the Kingdom, the Great Deku Tree states this as well.
The sword will continue to gain strength if bathed in sacred power. The stronger that power, the more powerful the sword becomes.
and Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom is stated to possess this very sacred power, specifically the same that can dispel evil, though it has been shown to have other uses. For instance, in A Link to the Past, Link uses this power to reflect Aghanim's fire spell. In Twilight Princess, once you find the place that holds this sacred sword, the power to repel evil pours out of the blade, driving out Xant's curse from Link's wolf form and condensing it into a shadow crystal. It's expected that Zelda was pouring her sacred power to be the ultimate weapon that defeats the Demon King. The Master Sword almost takes a priority over anything else in this game, and perhaps that's okay. What we should be looking at is a sacred power possessed by Hylia, which can manipulate time if needed. But with that, we are going to wrap up. Turns out we were very wrong about the Master Sword in Tears of the Kingdom. What do you make of Zelda's sacrifice and time manipulation? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.